Welcome back to another Pokemon What If Wednesday, where every Wednesday morning we go through last week's investing and collecting questions, where your guys' questions will actually be featured in the video, and one person's question will help me make the thumbnail every single week. So please drop your questions down below for a chance to be in next week's video. And if I did comment to you saying great question, I might use this and I didn't, please drop that same question again and put repeat question and it will get moved to the top. And if it was super long, maybe shorten it up a little bit. And I'm not saying I'm some guru who just knows everything, but when I'm unsure, I always like to talk it out with a few people. It always helps me make my final decision. But before we get started, we do have to give a big thanks to our video sponsor real quick, and that is ARIZONATCG. If you guys have a couple graded cards or a ton of graded cards, or you maybe have some raw cards you're looking to get graded to sell, ARIZONATCG is perfect for you. They handle everything. They'll take all your cards in, then they're going to take professional scans, or they'll get your raw cards graded for you. Then they're going to post them to their massive weekly eBay auctions, which gets a ton of views, and they charge almost the exact same amount as if you started your own eBay store. But this eBay store already has 100% positive feedback with over 15,000 sales. So definitely check them out. All the links are in the description. All right, first question is from Montclair Bear. Yo, PokeBeard, what do you think of the Mewtube card from Sun and Moon? Seeing the success of Latios and Latias GX, could Mewtube copy that success soon? So I think that card actually has super good potential. When looking at it, it's actually pretty tough to grade. There's 2,506 10s, 5,378 9s, and 2,725 8s. So there's more 8s than 10s, and then looking at the Latias and Latios, this has a lower pop, but it's actually easier to grade. There just isn't as many of these cards out on the market because not a ton of people actually opened up Team Up. But this has a pop of 1,983 in a 10, and 1,388 in a 9, and 680 in an 8. But going back to the Mewtube, we just had a new sale at $4,095. We got a 9 at $790, $790. That is not correct. $849, $911, and the 10 before that was at $3,700. Now here's what I think is funny. The raw $449, $400, $510, $270, $300. But if you look at the Umbreon VMAX, PSA 10 sales $2,750. So, you know, $1,200 less than the Mewtube. But raw $1,500, $1,300, $1,000, $1,300. We got one at $875, so that's quite the difference between raw prices between the Mewtube and the Umbreon VMAX. But I could definitely see the Mewtube just keep climbing. I mean, because it is pretty tough to grade. And we just got a brand new Mewtwo card, and 99% of the hobby thinks this card is still better. So this is the best Mewtwo card. And like looking at the prices before, January of 2025, it was at $2,131. But we do have to keep in mind that we did just have a Mewtwo set, and the market is the hottest it's ever been. So there's a lot of hype right now to where, you know, this card could definitely come down in price in the future. Even the Umbreon VMAX and the Latios and stuff, those cards are always kind of going up and down. It just really depends on the market. If the market really, really cools off, you know, these cards are going to take a big hit. But they almost never go back down to where like they started. Like Mewtwo will never be an $800 card probably. And I know it doesn't seem possible for this card to get any more expensive, but I mean, look at the Latias right here. Last sold is $13,899. We got a sale before at $8,600 and one at $10K. I think ARIZONATCG even had one at $10,899. Buy it now on eBay. So, you know, the Mewtube could definitely get a little bit more expensive. I'm very upset that I never got a PSA 10. I thought about it many, many times. I have quite a few raw ones, but never got the PSA 10. I'm just too cheap. But now I'm kicking myself that I didn't. I do have one that I think could definitely get a PSA 10. Like, it's got a really good chance. And remember, this card does go with the other Mewtwo and Mew card. So it does actually match with the non-textured one. But all right, next question is from a member at Clyde44. Hello, Beard. Japan's Pokemon centers in Tohoku, Hiroshima, and, oh, I'm going to butcher this, Fukuoka each have a special box. The artwork is very good in my view. Do you have any thoughts on these boxes from an investment perspective? Thank you so much for the videos, as I always look forward to them as they come out over each week. Cheers. I'm a big fan of anything exclusive really on the Japanese side, and I agree the arts are pretty crazy. Of course, we wish they were like actually illustration rares, but you cannot deny the actual art in the card when you really look at it. I'm a big fan of the one with the shiny Gyarados. That's probably my favorite. And I think I might get all three of these. I might be able to get them for a good deal. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'll let you guys know. But all right, next question is from Rep Leica54. Hey, Beard the Beard. Santa Cruz, Pokemon Skateboard blind bags, investment time. So I really don't have any of these, and I honestly don't know a ton about them, but they do pretty well from what I've seen. I'm just not really a big skateboard guy. That's probably the thing that I am absolutely worst at. Like, I can barely stand on a skateboard for some reason. I can snowboard a little bit, but I cannot stand on a skateboard. But yeah, from what I've seen though, they can do pretty well. I wouldn't go absolutely crazy in them. I don't know, they don't sell a ton on the secondary market from what I've seen. We're not getting a ton of sales each day, which is the thing I really like to look at when I'm checking out a new investment for Pokemon. But yeah, I mean, if you're a skateboard fan, I think this would be a must buy. Like, if I like skateboards, I'd probably have all of these. All right, next question is from another member at Chubb. Hey Beard, love the videos. I recently picked up the Reds Pikachu Japanese promo, and I think it's a lot better than the ponchos, but the price doesn't show it. How do you feel about this pickup? I think it's one of the best Pikachu cards, period. I agree. I think it is one of the best Pikachu cards, period. And I do think it'll climb a little bit more, but you got to look at the graph here. In 2021, it did get up to about $300 and went all the way down to $90. Went up again to $175, back down to $95. So this card could definitely go up and down, but as you can see, it's just going straight up right now. Last sold 360, 359, 346. There's 13,000 of them in a 10 and 1,500 in a 9, so it's very easy to grade, which is one of the reasons why it's on the cheaper side. But I think it's a cool card. I think it will climb a little bit higher, like I said, but if the market cools off, this card will probably definitely take a little bit of a hit. During the COVID boom, when that all ended, the cards with the highest pops usually always took the biggest falls. So that's what I noticed anyways. But again, love the card. But all right, next is from at Mystic Muth 8411. Dear Big Daddy Big Beard. These names, me and my wife were literally laughing the other day, just scrolling through, reading all the names. It's so funny. They're getting crazy. Ready to rumble. Tell us your thoughts on the Pokemon Rumble promo set. Underrated or just too different for the average collector? Love the channel, and are you going to Chicago Collecticon in October? I am not going to Chicago Collecticon in October. We've been traveling too much, and I got a bunch of card shows that month. And I think Card Party is in Seattle at the very beginning of October, and we're going to that too. So we really can't do like 2 big trips in a month because my wife does work too. So I'm a big fan of the Rumble set. I am almost done completing this set. And honestly, I think it's a super cool, unique set. If you guys like this art style, I definitely suggest it. It's not that hard to complete. Obviously, Pikachu's pretty expensive. It says Raw 237, Mew 230, Lucario 142. Gyarados 117, Zapdos 96, Venusaur 77. But I love these smaller sets that are super unique. Instead of collecting every single illustration rare, special illustration rare, or master setting, a set, I think this is just so much better and so unique too. You're not going to see, a lot of people with this set complete. But what you will see is the same special illustration rares, the same alternate arts, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm missing the Ninetales and the Zapdos. I'm just waiting for some really clean ones, but those are the 2 most expensive ones that I needed. All right, next question is from Matt. Elijah Jared 9055. Hello, Beard. I have a question. My PSA 10 Detective Pikachu has been shooting up like crazy. Do I sell on the hype? I bought it low and use that money for more sealed, or do I hold for the future? Thank you. So I also bought a bunch of these cards. We talked about them on the channel probably a year ago when they were, $50-$60 when they came out in a PSA 10. I think they're even a little bit cheaper. This card does have a really high pop at 26,000 in a 10, but I think this is one of the most beautiful cards. If you really look at this card, like, I'm not joking, really look at it. Look, there's a Mewtwo right here. There's so many things going on in the background. It's just wild. Like, there's stuff all over. I love how it looks like it's like hand painted. And then, Detective Pikachu sitting on top of Growlithe. Last sold in a 9 is 150. We got Raw at 99, 128, and 140. Last sold in a 10 is 285, 299. So I think this card will go up a little bit more. I could see it maybe 350. I'd say at most it'll probably reaches 500 in this current boom. You never really know though. When it comes to cards like this, beautiful illustration rares that are exclusive, the pop doesn't matter as much. I mean, look at the Gray Felt Hat Pikachu. So yeah, I think this card has a little bit more potential. So just keep riding that big wave. And once it levels out a little bit, then you could definitely sell it and, invest into some sealed products. All right, next is from Matt Binstees. Are there any booster boxes or Grail cards you really wish you had or you're saving up for? Or what's your favorite, most obtainable booster box or Grail? So, yeah, I don't have like a ton of like Wizards of the Coast sealed booster boxes or any. Actually, I just have a lot of the packs because I couldn't afford them back in the day. So I would love probably a Neo Genesis first edition booster box would probably be my first choice. Of course, I'd rather have, first edition Shadowless base set, but I'm being somewhat realistic. And I know Neo Genesis is not the best Neo set. It's just probably the most nostalgic for me. because I was just so obsessed with it. You know, the starters and everything. It just really reminded me of base set, but for Neo, and we can get 2 holos for each, and that just blew my mind. So that would probably be the box that I would get for sure. And then if we're talking about Pokemon cards, I really want a first edition Shadowless base set Dragonair in a PSA 10, but I want it to be actually minty. I've seen a couple of them now in person, and they were not the cleanest cards, to be honest, for being a PSA 10. They're all super old, you know, certs and stuff like that. Now, as you can see, that's not the best booster box to get, and that's not the best card to get, but those are my favorite cards, so that's definitely what I would get. All right, next question is from That Guy Switty. Hey, PokeBeard, I have a bit of FOMO when it comes to buying the singles I really want during this dip. I was wondering, has there ever been a card you haven't been able to get / shot up in price due to waiting too long? Have a good one. So, the Latios and Latios, I waited on. I thought it was going to come back down in price when it was at like 200 or 300, and it never did, and it just kept climbing. I ended up getting it at like $700 or something like that, which is still much better than what it is now today. And actually the Bubble Mew also. That card was actually under $100 for a little bit, and I was waiting. You know, I never buy cards right away anyways. And yeah, it just went up in price like crazy. I ended up getting it in a big bundle deal to where I got it for, you know, a pretty good deal because I ended up selling a lot of the cards in the lot, which, you know, helps pay for the cards that I'm trying to keep. So I had to do a little bit of work, but I ended up getting it for a good deal. So yeah, those are probably the 2 for modern. And then for vintage, I really can't think of anything because I got most of my vintage so long ago. But all right, next question is from the Red Diamond. As someone just started out collecting sealed products, what would you say are the best items to invest in when it comes to best bang for my buck pack wise? Side note, I've learned so much since watching you back in December. I wouldn't be where I am today without your videos. Thank you. I appreciate that. So of course, booster boxes, and then Pokemon Center ETBs, those are your best 2 sealed products. And then also the SPCs and UPCs, but that also really depends on what it is. You know, we got some average UPCs out there. Tons of packs in them still, but, you know, not the best promos or the best, you know, Pokemon mascot on the box like the Tropicals. Isn't terrible, but it's not going to go insane. So honestly, if you just stick with those 3 products, you're going to be so happy in the future, I promise you. Otherwise, if you do not have that much money, booster bundles, I think, are a very solid buy. And then if you do collection boxes, make sure they are good ones with really good pack selections and really good promos. But right, next is from the Chansey 139. I'm looking to start a graded 151 collection. I kind of like the idea of tag cards since they are AI graded and super clean in a 10, but don't want their resale value and ability to sell them to be bad. I do plan to keep these long term, but still want them to hold value. Tag or just go with the trusted PSA. So PSA would definitely be a little bit safer, especially resale value. And then if you're getting the cards graded yourself, you're going to have better chances of getting a PSA 10. But I mean, if it's for you and you're doing it long term, you could do tag if you want. They do sell for pretty close to a PSA 10. They just take forever to sell. But one good thing is they are a little bit more strict on their grading to where, you know, a lot of people, if they're going to go buy your collection 5-10 years down the road, they're going to know that there's some pretty clean cards in there because some PSA 10s are just rough. So if it's just for you and your collection, you could get tag if you wanted. I do agree about their slabs. I honestly do think they look the cleanest. They're just a little bit more on the brittle side. And then, you know, they're still a pretty new company to where it's going to take them a very long time to try to overtake PSA. So if you're trying to be safe, PSA, but if you're trying to be a little bit different and it's for your personal collection and you like tag better, then go for tag. Next is from Nick Landon. Morning PokeBeard. I came by your booth at the recent show and looked at a PSA 10 of yours. This actually isn't a question, I just wanted to add it. I didn't buy it after looking it over. Unexpectedly, you said, I'm glad you looked it over and didn't just buy it because it was a 10. I wanted to say thank you for telling me that. It gives me more confidence to thoroughly scan cards over, even when you can feel the judgment from a seller. So do not just buy any PSA 10, especially if you're looking for a PSA 10 at a card show and there's 20 of them in there. Look around, try to find that cleanest one, because odds are you're going to get it for the same price as someone selling one with a little white ding on it or something that's a little off-centered. So you might as well hunt and try to find that cleanest PSA 10 copy to where you never know, maybe in the future you could crack it out and grade it with a better grading company. Let's say PSA isn't a king anymore in 10 years. At least you know all of your cards in those slabs are truly clean. But all right, next question is from Curie Collect. Question, Beard Bro. Are you actively collecting TCGs other than Pokemon? Would you consider doing a little showcase or a market summary of other TCGs? So for other TCGs, I really only collect vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I collect vintage Digimon. And then there's a couple newer Digimon cards that I kind of want. And then I also do play Magic the Gathering. You know, I love playing Commander and stuff like that. And they're coming out with a new Spider-Man set. Kind of want to get that also. But yeah, when it comes to those TCGs, like for Yu-Gi-Oh!, I really only know like the first maybe 8 sets. And after that, I don't know anything. but I do know everything there is to know about those first 8 sets. And then same with like early Digimon and stuff. And I'm learning about some of the newer Digimon. And then, you know, Magic the Gathering, my brother has more Magic than I have Pokemon cards. He has been collecting Magic the Gathering since it basically came out. So he's kind of like me, but with Magic. And I've spent a lot of money trying to beat him in Magic, which I have beat him once. So all the money that I spent was totally worth it. But in Magic, I definitely don't know everything in that either. My brother does, but I do not. There's so much in there. If you guys have never played Magic the Gathering, I strongly suggest you guys play it. I think it's a lot more fun to play than Pokemon and a lot more in-depth. So yeah, I wouldn't feel super comfortable doing like a whole market summary. The only thing I would really feel comfortable that I'm confident in is vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! Like first edition stuff. But yeah, I do love these other TCGs. You know, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! A ton as a kid. I went to a ton of tournaments. And then, you know, I played Magic the Gathering for years with my brother. And then Digimon, I played for a little bit. And I love the show and the movies and stuff, so that's why I just kind of collect what I like and the Digimon that I like. All right, next question is from @Oilman. Do you have a set percentage where you are okay with taking profits on sealed, or are you just holding forever? So I'm definitely a little bit more on the hoarder side, and I just kind of like to keep everything forever. If I have a ton of like one item, I would definitely be open to selling some of them. Like I have a ton of Paldea Vault booster boxes that I got all for like $100 or less. So, you know, that's something I'd maybe want to sell. But normally I like to wait till stuff hits to like $1,000 a booster box. Then I'm like, yeah, I'm down to sell. But since I have so many Paldea Evolved, I'd maybe let a couple go at like 500. But again, if I don't need the money, I'm just going to keep holding on to it, which can be smart, but it all depends on the market and stuff. I think it is a good thing to sell off some of your stuff when it goes crazy to reinvest. But again, it all depends on if you need the money. Everybody's situation is slightly different. So like I said, if I don't need the money and I have enough money to buy the stuff that I want, I'm just going to keep holding on to everything forever. But all right, next question. This is from Isaac Shatler. I'm hearing talks about us being in a Pokemon bubble that's going to eventually pop. Your thoughts? So this is definitely the biggest Pokemon boom we've ever been in. That is a fact. And I do not think it can stay like this forever. I mean, that's just so tough, especially it really depends on what's going on in the world and what sets Pokemon gives us. That makes a big difference. Now, I've seen so many Pokemon YouTubers talk about this. Half of them say everything is going to go back down to MSRP. The other half is saying nothing's going to go back down to MSRP. Now, the people that are saying everything's going to go back down to MSRP, they're basing that off of the COVID boom. You know, they're basing it off of history, which is a good thing, but you really got to look at the history. So the COVID boom and this boom are completely different. We never had every booster box over $200 in the Sword and Shield boom. We never even had every Sword and Shield booster box over $150 or even $125 at the same time. You know, there was always a couple booster boxes that were $100. So they're really not even comparable boom-wise, especially we're talking the worst sets in the Sword and Shield era at the beginning compared to the best sets at the end of the Scarlet and Violet era. And yes, the Mega set looks amazing. I'm very excited for that. But that doesn't change the fact that Destined Rivals is one of the best sets, or Prismatic Evolutions is one of the best sets in the Scarlet and Violet era. And two, if we're going to talk about history and basing everything off of history, let's go back and look at the Sword and Shield era. Most expensive booster box, Evolving Skies, has the most expensive cards. Then we'll go to Sun and Moon, Team Up. Most expensive booster box has the most expensive cards. You know, people consider those the best sets. Go to XY era, we got Flashfire, we got Phantom Forces, the best sets, most expensive sets. To where, you know, Destined Rivals, Prismatic Evolution, Surging Sparks, 151, you know, those are some of the best sets we got in the Scarlet and Violet era, so they're going to do very well. Now, I'm not saying go buy all these sets at market prices because these are our newest sets. And then with Mega Evolutions looking super good, that's actually a really good thing for us because it'll kill some of the hype of Destined Rivals and Prismatic to where hopefully these boxes can get cheaper. And then you take that with a bunch of large reprints, that's when we can start seeing stuff a lot cheaper. And that's where, like, if Journey Together gets a big reprint and we got a bunch of awesome Mega Evolution sets, I can see Journey Together getting to MSRP, maybe even a little cheaper. So I'm kind of right in the middle. I think some stuff will come down in price, and then I think some stuff won't, because it's so tough for Pokemon just to reprint everything. They cannot reprint every single collection box, every ETB, every booster bundle. You know, it's just impossible. And then two, if we also want to talk about history, let's talk about Rebel Clash in the Sword and Shield era. That's a terrible set that got like no reprints, and it's one of the most expensive sets in the era. So that can definitely happen in the Scarlet and Violet era to where one of these sets, you know, might not get a big reprint or a reprint at all. You know, that's why I don't like people talking like it's for sure a fact, like this is for sure going to happen, because we really don't know what's going to happen. You know, if crypto crashes and the stock market goes way down, Pokemon, you know, will take a little bit of a hit. And if we get a couple bad sets and it's the summer, like Pokemon could truly cool off. I just don't know if all those things are going to happen. Especially, I can't see Pokemon giving us a bad set right now. But you never know. Gen 10 base set is where we're really going to find out. Because a lot of the base sets, you know, are definitely on the weaker side. And for Gen 9, they went so heavy on the Gen 9 Pokemon to where a lot of people did not like the set. But we're a ways away from that. But I even heard some people say that with the first Mega Evolution set, everything's going to crash, which I completely disagreed with because people are going to be hyped for Mega Evolutions. But all right, next question is from @SappyCJ. We really appreciate the work you put in, especially for What If Wednesdays. My question is, what do you think of the PCQ system and what are your thoughts about Scotland Valdera products getting restocked? Do you think we'll ever be able to just go on the site again and order whatever is available? I hope we see restocks for products such as Temporal, Paradox, booster boxes, and some PC ETBs in the future. So I do think the queue system is getting better with each drop, so that is a very good sign. It used to just sell out in like 5-10 minutes. Now people are able to hop on hours after it pops up and still, get a couple ETBs or whatever it is. And this kind of goes with the last question, but as long as people can buy something off a website and instantly make a little bit of money, you will never be able to find these products on the website. They're always going to sell out super quick. So it really just depends on if the market actually cools off and when it does. And that's when we will actually be able to get stuff on the Pokemon Center website. Or like I said, if it's a set that's not very good and people aren't a big fan of it, then you'll be able to pick some stuff up. But yeah, I'm definitely liking the queue system. Hopefully it gets even better and better because bots are probably still buying some of the stuff. So next is from @RagingOlive. Hey there, watch every video. So I have some 151 SIR dupes, Vina, Zapdos, Alakazam, but the market is down on them right now. Actually, I just checked them on my last market Monday. A couple of them are going up in price, so make sure you check before you sell them. I'm refining my collection of singles down, and I'm selling some stuff to go towards some sealed and other stuff I want to collect. I have faith 151 singles to go up in the future, so it's hard for me to part with them. Would love to know your thoughts. So if they're not minty, super clean, if they're kind of off-centered or have a little bit of whitening, you could definitely sell off some of those or trade some of those for some sealed products. Just try to keep your nice ones. Because investment-wise, sealed products will always do better. They just do not go up and down as much as cards do. Next is from @LoganDurst649. Hey PokeBeard, I recently started a seal collection. I was wondering if I should continue to buy or wait a while. I want to hold on to this stuff for years and years. So you could definitely keep buying. Just keep trying to get stuff at MSRP, trying to get stuff at stores like in Minnesota. Target and Walmart's restock on Fridays. Not sure where you're at. Try to figure out when they restock and maybe you can score a box or two, every couple weeks or whatever it is. And if you're worried about overpaying on some of these newer sets, you could definitely buy, Sword and Shield booster box or Sun and Moon or, some ETBs or anything like that. So there's always some stuff you can be buying. Just try not to overpay if you're looking for it and try to make sure you're getting everything in mint condition if you're buying sealed products. Next is from @Broden116. Oh, Beard of Beers. If I'm starting out just collecting IRs and SIRs, do you have sets you would recommend? I started with Obsidian Flames in 151. I'm thinking Shroud of Fable next. So I think you should collect every single illustration rare and special illustration rare for every Scarlet and Violet set. If you really look at it, it's not like that impossible. It does take a long time, but you just buy, a little bit at a time. Maybe you buy a big lot that has a bunch of them and you can sell off the other cards you don't need, sell off your doubles, trade your doubles. And honestly, you'd be so happy when that binder is complete. But if you don't want to do that, honestly, Paradox Rift is a very undervalued set and a lot of cards are so affordable and they're so beautiful. But like I said, I think you should just go for all of them. Next is from Mr. Burger 5261. Hey Beard, do you think the Black Bolt and White Fair binder collection are good investments considering how good the 151 binder collection is doing? So the only reason the 151 binder collection is doing so good is because it did not get reprinted nearly as much as all the other products did. So that's the main reason why the binder collection is doing super good. I do think binder collections are solid grabs, especially if you can find it in store, but it's not guaranteed that, Prismatic and Black Bolt and all that will do just as good as 151 because it is a binder collection. It all depends on reprints. But all right, last question is from @Arnarkarig. If you were a casual collector in a small market with limited access to product, what are some products cards you would consider paying above market for? So the only thing I really like to pay above market for is, Pokemon Center exclusives like the Pokemon Center ETBs, maybe some Japanese Pokemon Center exclusives, stuff like that. And then if we're talking cards, also same thing, exclusives, and then maybe some low pop cards, or if it's super minty. If I find like a vintage card that is truly minty, that I'm like very confident it'll get a 10, I will pay a lot more for that card than I would just like a regular near mint card. And then also maybe UPCs, like I overpaid on some Celebrations UPCs right when they came out because I just wanted them so bad. Thank goodness I did because they're going absolutely crazy. So that's the thing too, overpaying isn't the biggest deal as long as you are planning to stay in the hobby for 5, 10, 15 years. But the thing is, 90% of the people don't do that. They'll buy it, it might go down in price. Then they, get bored of it or panic and they want to sell it. And then they lose money on it. Or, it doesn't go down in price and it doesn't really go up enough for them to where they get bored of it and they want to sell it and buy something else. So as long as you're going to be here for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you know, that's when it's not going to make the biggest difference if you overpay a little bit. But all right, that was today's Pokemon What If Wednesday. If you guys do like this content, please make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a like and comment. If you guys do want to support more, you can check out my Instagram, my TikTok, or my YouTube membership. It's only 99 cents a month. But all right, I want you guys to have a great day. And if you guys want to watch my last Pokemon Market Monday, which was a super good one, click this video here. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.